Erika, ¿cómo estás? Bien, bien.
Bien. Congrats on your new book.
Oh my
I'm
God.
so happy for
I,
you.
I've been like swamped with that, chicas.
I
And
bet.
Oh,
I
sí,
have
sí,
a
sí.
big announcement in a couple weeks, and I'm like dying to say something, and I can't.
Oh, how
And
exciting.
Bueno,
yes,
you'll keep us waiting.
she's been in the secret, but anyway, it's been a little crazy, but I'm so happy to be here with both of you. And you guys, no, there was no homeschooling, or there was homeschooling, but not homeschooling en español, ni mucho menos, or ni mucho más, when I was raising my kids. So this is a great conversation because fast forward 25 years later, it's such an in thing, and I'm so happy that a lot of parents are choosing that when they decide to raise bilingual or Spanish first kids that like we promote.
I actually I've been talking to a few moms this week, so I wanna start by saying there are a lot of moms that I talk to that are either looking to pull their kids out of school or kind of starting on this journey. And I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and Erika, you're probably on this boat to what I call recreate school, right? Especially if you had your pulled
Yes.
out. Yeah, I think we feel like we need to be doing the same thing that they were doing or equal to. And I just want to remind everybody that that's not what homeschooling is about, right? And you will be so surprised if you let your child lead, especially when they're younger, that if you let them lead and you take their lead in the things they're interested in, like they end up a lot of the times miles ahead of their peers just in following them. So I just wanted to put that out
Right.
there first, so that when this goes for homeschooling at large, not just in Spanish. But it's so important to remember that and kind of go into this conversation knowing that, because we're all about, I feel like, what's the curricula and what's the blah blah blah, right? And we forget about that connection so much, and the curiosity that our children inherently have. So I really want to start the conversation with that mindset for all the parents that are joining us, so that we all remember uh, that we're doing this for our kids at the
Right.
end of the day, right? We are making sacrifices a lot of the times, because I see a lot of people call it a privilege. And although it is, I know personally, my husband and I make a lot of sacrifices to be able to do this for our children as well, right? And as homeschooling moms know, there is no break, right? Other moms do get to send the kids into school and kind of have, they either have a job that they can do. Like, there is no break for us. And so, as much as I agree that in some ways it is a privilege, it is also a sacrifice that is worth it for us. Um,
Huge.
but as we go through this, let's just go in it with that mindset.
Yeah, and I want to add that the comparison game can eat you alive
Mhm.
because so many people see the things that your kids are doing, whether it be in homeschool or public school, and then they instantly feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so behind. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, like your child is reading so well in Spanish.
Mhm.
Again, it varies child by child. I mean, even just my own daughter and my son are completely different in the way that they learn. And that's the great advantage of homeschooling, is that you can tailor to that and go with whatever level they're at. But for people who don't homeschool, or for people, going into homeschool, I would say don't get so hung up on, what others are doing, because at the end of the day, you have to try it for yourself. Yes, it's great to get ideas from other people, but until you try it on your actual child, you won't really know if it works for
What
you.
works? Yeah,
Right?
absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely,
It's so
absolutely.
true. And that goes for whether you homeschool or not homeschool. I always tell the parents, stop comparing your child to your neighbor's child or someone in your family's child that, they're all being raised with Spanish and English, or Spanish and French and whatever combination of languages, because every child learns at their own pace. They're all different. Even like you say, siblings are learn the language differently. Their development is different. So, but let's start with you know the main question here is it even possible to homeschool entirely in Spanish in the United States?
So Eric, I'm going to let you start just because you are in a state that is kind of the exception to the rule. So let's hear from you first,
Right.
and then I'll go.
Right. So it varies from state to state for homeschool. So you have to look up your homeschool laws in your state. You can either go on the California Department of Education for us, or there's another website for the entire
Yeah,
US, I believe,
HSLDA.
HLDA. Yeah,
Yeah.
HLDA. So you can go on there, look up your state, and basically see the laws that pertain to you in whatever state you're in. I'm personally in California, and so per California law, homeschool instruction has to be in English. It's very specific, and the only, I guess, exception to that is using Spanish resources and Spanish instruction to basically help your child learn the English subjects that they are to learn. So, for example, like my daughter going into first grade, she had to learn math, English, social studies, all in English, but she didn't really understand that level of English quite yet. And so I would use Spanish resources to teach her the concept in Spanish, and then she'd be able to bridge it then into English. Does that make sense? So that's the exception to that rule. But as far as legally keeping records and turning in assignments, because that's how you prove that you're homeschooling, is you turn in assignments monthly, that all has to be in English in our state. So my daughter still physically has to write whatever it is she's learning in English, so that we have that as a work sample.
That's interesting.
And I know it's different for you.
It's totally different for us. So where I am, I'm in Arkansas, and we don't have any type of state requirement for language. And so what we do is we teach fully in Spanish, like from reading, math, science, history, it doesn't matter. We teach it in Spanish. And the only, I'm not even going to call it a requirement, but this state gets funding for homeschoolers. And I know a few other states do, if you guys haven't looked into that. But our state gets funding. And so what we do is my child going into kindergarten as he was this year, he doesn't test. But then going into next year, if I want to apply for funds, he has to test to show that there's been progress between starting and finishing. Kind of like he has improved over the year. He doesn't test to be compared to his peers. He doesn't test to pass a grade or show that he is at grade average. He just tests to show that he is doing better than he was, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Is it in English or Spanish?
So the test is in English, and so that's where I was going with that, because a lot of people, and we're going to get into this conversation, but a lot of people will say, well, if you're teaching him everything in Spanish, how is he going to know? But a lot of people forget partly what you were saying, which is all these concepts transfer, right? So you have a child that knows how to do fractions, like he's gonna do fractions. You have a child that knows the parts of the plant and the life cycles. It bridges itself so simply in their life. They go to story time in English, they hear it. They go to a co-op, which mostly for most of us is in English. That bridges, like all of that information bridges so quickly for children, and they connect it so quickly. And if I don't teach it in Spanish, who's going to do that? Right? So the information is out there so readily available for our kids. And so much of this information can be taught in Spanish. And I think parents get really caught up in well, what about English? Like exactly what we started this conversation talking about. Well, what about these kids all gonna know it in English and my kid isn't? Like, I can't tell you guys how deep into the solar system we have gone and how little it took for my child to learn in English, and it didn't come from me. Like, you know, and you think about concepts that I'm talking about that need labels. Like, think about math, right? If your child knows adding and subtracting and multiplication, my child knows the numbers. I only taught him in Spanish. He can tell time in both languages. You know what I mean? All of those things that I think we get very like narrow-minded into, well, these labels, like he has to learn them in a language. We're teaching children how to think in our language. We're teaching children how to debate, how to write. We're teaching children so much more than these labels that we get. We're teaching children how to look at a plant and how to be able to tell that it has roots and it has a stem and it has leaves and how it grows, right? And so I think instead of getting caught up in those small things, we have the opportunity to protect the minority language at home. We have this massive opportunity as homeschoolers that other people probably don't have, right? That maybe people that are sending their kids to an immersion school have, but that we as homeschoolers are, I mean, that's one of the big reasons I chose to homeschool, because I'll be able to protect my language, to pass it on to my children and give them the best shot at long-term bilingualism that they are going to get, because otherwise English drowns it out. And parents a lot of the times forget that if they start teaching in English, even if they've established Spanish as a language of connection, it can muddy those lines, and the children can default to the English language, which is easier and readily available in their mind, versus all of those academic concepts that we can expand their vocabulary, right? So Erika, I want to hear from you, like, how have you felt ever since you started like officially homeschooling, that has shifted or that has remained the same, or how have you done or worked towards keeping it and protecting it so that English doesn't muddy it up in a sense?
Right. So I keep school and home separate, as in when we are in school and learning English, it's English time. And whatever we learn in school stays there at school. And when we're done with school, ya estamos hablando español. That's it. And so there's like that boundary where we are still only speaking Spanish outside of school hours. And there has been a huge shift, I feel like, especially with my little one, because obviously, you know, they pick it up so fast, especially from older siblings. Last year was our official first year with like an actual charter school, and where she learned English for the first time. And it did change their dynamic a little bit. I now hear them playing in both languages, you know, mainly in Spanish, but now you hear a little bit more English like sprinkled in.
Bittersweet, no?
Yeah, it's very, oh my, like, I don't know, it tickles my heart in like such a weird way, like, oh, please go back to Spanish, you know. But I know it's just a normal part of where we live, you know. It's just how their childhood has shaped out to be because of where we live. But I think keeping that strict boundary between what we learn in school stays in school, and then outside of that, like, we still speak Spanish to each other and we still keep that going. I think that's, you know, a way to kind of separate it. We're learning English as a family together, but we live in Spanish together at home. Does that make sense? And for the people that feel like are so worried about, you know, oh, well, how is your kid gonna catch up in English? Like, my daughter started from nothing at the beginning of first grade, not even being able to take the state test at the beginning because it was the first week in English. She couldn't even take the test, to placing in the 98th percentile by the end of her first school year. So it's absolutely possible. Kids are so smart. They pick it up so quickly. And for all those people that are so worried that your kid will get behind, yeah, maybe at first, you know. Did I cry with my daughter? Heck yeah, I cried. I rethought my entire life. Like, oh, what did I do? Like, is it my fault? Should I have taught her both languages? You know, I cried with her. I called my mom. And you know what she told me? She told me, you went through the same exact thing. Like, I sent you to school crying because you didn't know English, and we had the same exact scenario happen, and look at you now. And it was like, you're right. You're right.
I mean, I love that, and I moved here at almost 18 years old, right? I didn't know any of this, and I didn't know any of these labels that we keep talking about in English. And I learned, and I was 18 when I moved here. Do I have any doubt in my mind that my children who live in this country are not going to learn those by themselves, by their innate curiosity and being around other kids and hearing them talk and hearing? I have zero doubt.
Right.
I have no doubt. Like, we have to trust our children. Like, let's just put it that way. Let's trust our children. It's so important, and they're amazing. But like I always say, if we don't protect the language, then it falls by the wayside, right? They start learning all of these things. And exactly like you said, I love that you gave us your perspective, because other parents might be in the situation that you're in. I know that I have talked to a couple myself that are in California and that feel kind of stuck And then they're like, well, I mean, if I'm going to teach in English, yeah, just I'll give up.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be that way, right? Like,
Right.
let's make an effort. Is there, where you are, a possibility to teach certain topics in Spanish and certain topics in English?
So that's the way I do it. And so the state testing only tests kids on English, like reading and math.
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell
Okay.
people, do with that what you will. You know,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
your child is not going to get tested in science. So
Okay.
can you absolutely teach them science
Okay.
completely in Spanish? I do. I completely teach them Spanish and science. And to turn in work samples, you just transfer the verbiage
Lo
over.
mismo.
You
Sí.
just transfer they already learned the concept. Now all you're doing is teaching them the English vocabulary, having them write it on a piece of paper and turn that in. You know, so it is absolutely possible. Social studies, they don't get tested on social studies. So books, we read every book. I just look at whatever topics that they need to learn about, you know, for the school year, and I find all the Spanish books I can find on that topic and do it mostly in Spanish. And then whatever English resources that I love to, I can throw that in there. But you do have the flexibility to teach it in completely in Spanish, so long as you
Same thing with the math that you're talking about, right?
right.
That's what we were saying in the beginning.
Yes.
O sea,
Yes.
if you know how to add, you know how
Yes.
to add. ¿Me
Right.
entiendes? O sea,
Right.
if your child's going to
Right.
be tested in math,
Yeah.
they're going to know how to do long division in any language because it's
Exactly.
long division, you know?
I feel like like for math, personally, we do both because she's going to be tested on that in English. So I need her to know, you know, all of that English vocabulary. She needs to be able to
Adding, subtracting.
read, adding, yeah, just even those words, you know. Need her to be able to read the questions and word problems and things like that in English. And so for that, we do learn it in both, just for testing purposes. But like I said, all the other subjects that are not being tested on, you can absolutely do it completely in Spanish. Is it a lot of work? Heck yeah, because there's not,
But isn't
you know,
homeschooling anyway?
right,
I mean, you know what
right.
I mean? Like,
It is what you put into it, you know. It is what you make of it. However much, you know, you want to dedicate to it, that's what your children will get out of it.
I just love that you've been able to, divide and conquer. Like, okay, so this is the routine that we have in English, and this is the routine that we have in Spanish. And kids are all about routines. So, I mean, I've always said that. It's like they have to brush their teeth 3 times a day. It happens every single day, the same thing. So if single day you're homeschooling in Spanish, and then the kids know that after school is over, we're moving into English. But this is something that has happened for generations, and that's why I think I'm so excited that all younger parents like you guys are out there predicando and reminding parents, because I still meet these parents today that say, "Ay, pero es que no van a aprender el inglés. They're going to start school and they're going to be way behind." And it's like, we have to keep talking about it and keep reminding parents that it can be done. They will get this English. English is going to dominate their lives for the rest of their lives if they live in the United States. So, and then what happens to Spanish? Si dejan de hablarlo or they give up, then, someday they're going to be 40 years old, because I have those friends, and they say to me, "I just wish my parents would have continued with the Spanish."
and I think that's interesting too, because what we're talking about here is making Spanish a foundation. Like I would call it a more strict case, right? Like I teach everything in Spanish. It's something I'm extremely passionate about. And I understand not everybody can do it, like you were saying, because of the law, or not everybody can do it because of their own limitations or perceived limitations, let's call them. But then I see parents that teach when they're little in Spanish, and as they grow, they start switching to English. And so I would ask those parents, I think somebody just wrote that will be teaching English in the first grade. Is it lack of resources? Is it like, why are we switching? I'm interested personally in finding out, because I do see that a lot. I want to tell myself it's because of lack of resources, like they yes, there's a lot of kinder curricula available, or resource, or printables and things like that. And once it starts getting serious, then they're kind of like, oh, okay, well, there's here the materials here that I can get in English, and let's go that route. So I'm interested in hearing from Por Amara Dalia, to hear you were saying you were going to switch to English this school year in first grades. I'm just interested personally in hearing why, and trying to help. I'm all about giving parents those tools to put my money where my mouth is, because I do talk about this a lot. So I want to be able to help you guys achieve that if that's in your realm. I hear parents say, well, maybe I'm not fluent enough. Can I still do it? So I would say yes, there are curricula out there for bilingual parents now. Like we have Llamitas, Niños en Nature has bilingual curriculum. Llamitas goes a little higher, so they can get to a higher level, but they have bilingual scripts for parents that can help you get there, can help you as a parent get there, right? Rely and lean on all of the resources, not just the curricula. Lean on workbooks, lean on content, lean on media, lean on all of those other things that are going to fill in the gaps for your child. See, because if you're not a native speaker, or you are a second language learner, there will be those gaps. So your child will need to get that information somewhere, but lean on those resources, and it is possible. So I did want to say that.
I've never hid the fact that I'm a heritage Spanish speaker. Like, I know you're a native Spanish speaker, but I grew up here. I was born and raised here in California. My parents were from Mexico, and I did not go to school in Spanish. I went to school completely in English from the start. And so I don't have that foundation of educational Spanish either.
So you're learning too.
So I am right there going, I don't know why there's a tilde there, but we're going to find out.
Let's find out. Yeah.
Like, we're going to figure it out, like, I'm not an educator either. I'm a nurse, I work, I have a profession, and I do this, on the side of that. But I'm learning right alongside with them. And I think it's good for people to hear that consistency is more important than perfection, which means, right, just keep at it, keep learning with your kids, keep speaking it. It does not have to be perfect. If Google Translate had like a history, I would be so embarrassed. Because you guys would not want to know how many words I look up in a day.
Trust me.
Because I didn't grow up hearing them, I grew up like with Rancho Mexican Spanish.
But that's amazing, right? Because then we always think, oh, well, you speak Spanish, that should be easy. Yeah. But good to hear that, no, like, I'm learning with my kids, but this is so important to me that I'm showing my kids that I want to learn this with them, right? Yeah. I'm showing my kids every day that we go and find this information because this matters, right? Yeah. So somebody asked, can you, sorry, May.
Anyway, that we have to keep up with, and we just have to make sure and then remember that it doesn't have to be perfect, and that consistency is like key, but we have to be flexible because things change all the time and new resources are coming up all the time. And to all the parents out there, always ask. You can ask any one of us for resources that are popping up every day. I, for one, you guys know I've been at this for a very long time. Whenever a new resource comes out, I investigate. Kyla can tell you that when she came on the scene, I met with her and we chatted, we talked. I learned all about her projects, all about her courses. And, I do that with every resource that comes out there. So you're always, and I'm sure Erika and Lucia do the same thing. I mean, because we want to recommend what we would use as a parent. Correct. So it's important to us. And I would like you to, both of you now, to talk to me a little bit about the outside pressure. How do you handle the outside pressure, family, neighbors, even co-ops, to prioritize English? How do you stay consistent with the Spanish?
Go ahead.
I don't. I just listen. Like I mean, we don't have any family around, so I think in that sense it's a little easier for me. But my parents have questioned my choices since my kids were born. They questioned my choice of speaking Spanish to my child, and his dad couldn't communicate with him. And then 3 months later, my child took off in English, or however many months later. They, they are now questioning me homeschooling and in general as a concept, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I can only give you guys so much information, but like I'm making the choice. And then they question my homeschooling in Spanish. Like that, the questioning of homeschooling in Spanish happens to me left and right. But I think as parents, we can only show people. And so
Right.
people see my kids and they realize like, oh, well, I guess it did work that you only spoke Spanish to them because they now speak both. Oh, I guess he does know these things in both languages, even though you taught him in Spanish. And you have to trust yourself and you have to have the information to give you the confidence to keep going. But I mean, go right along like with what you feel, what you know, and it's your children, you make the choices for them. That's why you're homeschooling in the first place. So
You don't owe, yeah, you don't owe anybody an explanation as to what method of parenting you choose, and like you said, let your kids speak for themselves. Not that your kids have to prove anything to anybody either, but I always tell people I'm not hiding them from English. I'm giving them more tools to help them with English even. I always tell people about, the benefits of learning Spanish first and how beautifully it transfers into learning English because I've seen it firsthand with both of my kids. And a lot of people won't understand that until they actually see it, like you said. And that's okay because the people that support you will stick by you.
Exactly. And that's what matters is, I think we as mom and dads, we make the commitment and we stay with that and we know our children and we know our mission better than anyone and we should stay on that path. And, the good thing is that we're all here to support everyone. And so, because when I did it, I was really alone and, there was no social media. So it was hard. It was a lot harder than that it is today. I would like to also ask you, are there, speaking of support, are there communities or networks for Spanish first homeschoolers?
So have you?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're in this group,
you guys.
Erika, but there's Latinos homeschooling, who's on Facebook, and they do a yearly conference now that can be attended by parents. I believe it's in Chicago. This year it's in Chicago again. So that's a big one if you want to network with other parents who are homeschooling Spanish. And I see people all the time, right, in that group asking, I'm in such and such state. I form my own groups wherever I go. I start Facebook groups for Latino parenting, Latino homeschooling in my area, wherever I end up being. And the response, I always post it in the homeschooling groups from those states. And the response is always excellent. Like people join and you can start doing meetups that way or finding kind of weeding out the moms that want to meet up and start. What we're doing right now is we started kind of like more informal meetup group that is just Spanish immersion. And eventually I hope to be able to turn it into a more formal co-op type of situation. But for now it's fairly new. So we're starting and seeing where it goes. But I think what I always say, if it's not there, just make it yourself. You know what I mean? Because it's only going to benefit your children in the long run to be able to be around other kids who are learning in their language, to be around other kids who are playing in their language. And so there are groups nationwide, and I make my own regionally or locally if I don't find one. So
I feel like if you just search in like homeschooling in general, or maybe like in your area, for example, I have one that's just called homeschooling in the IE, in the Inland Empire, right? And it might not just be a bilingual group, but there's, you know, thousands of people on there, and you could just go on there and basically say, hey, I have a 7 and a 5-year-old that are bilingual, Spanish first kids. Is anybody interested or in the area, you know, to get together maybe once a week, once a month, or whatever, you know, for our children to basically play in Spanish and make friends that they can, you know, be around with. So yeah, there's definitely ways, but it definitely does take, you know, you have to put in the time. And I recently saw something that said like you have to put in or you have to make a sacrifice, you know, to keep any sort of friendship. It takes up your time, you know, it's a lot of effort, but it'll be worth it, you know, in the long run.
Absolutely.
It,
I want to, Mari, do you care to do a quick roundup on resources? Would that be okay? I know you're pressed. Would you be okay if we quickly do that?
no, go ahead, do it, start.
Is that cool? Because I know.
Well, from when I started in my day, one of the first homeschooling resources out there was Momi Maestra. She's been doing this, like I think her kids are maybe 2 in college now. So she's been doing this for a long time and has a whole bunch of material. So, and she's mostly on Facebook, but I know that she's been more active on Instagram, and she is a wealth of information. Also Latina and just a beautiful person. We've had interviews a few times over the years, and I know that there are others on. I don't see as many like you are on Instagram, but I know there's more on Facebook.
Yeah, there are many. I think there are many. Well, I know I'm part of many bilingual groups on Facebook. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link or links on my on the YouTube video when I post it in the description to those groups, so people here can have a place to join if they haven't already. I know we cross over a lot between Instagram and those groups, so a lot of you might already be in them, but maybe in case there's one that you missed. I want to talk about quickly curricula. I know that's a big topic for everybody. There is curricula, bilingual curricula to teach in case you need to fill in those gaps, like Llamitas. Bilingüitos has not only classes, but she also has several like biliteracy classes that are really fun. There is the Niños and Nature curricula. She just came out with a kindergarten booklet that I've heard has good reviews. There are, if you want to teach your child Spanish as a second language, there's homeschool languages. There is Talkbox Mom, both of which are good for parents who really don't have any knowledge of the language, but they want their child to learn it. It has very tight scripting and phrases to start talking to your child with pronunciation and things like that to really get them started. Remember that there are a plethora of resources online as well, but I know a lot of people might not be keen of putting their child in front of the screen, so I want to put these resources out there. And then for teaching fully in Spanish, yes, there are resources also. The one I'm currently using is Sistema Educativo LAM. I am not affiliated with them at all. I bought this resource because it goes from basically preschool all the way through middle school. So I love that I won't have to be switching curricula or scrambling for resources as they grow, because we do have things available for littles. And Llamitas, for example, goes to level 4, which is great. And then once you go past that, you're like, well, now I have to switch to English, you know? So I have found this to be super completo. It has a calendar that you can access that plans your whole year for you with every single subject, which is excellent. It has videos for every single subject, every single book, everything you talk about has a video. So in case you feel like, well, I remember long division, sort of, they teach your child. It's short, like 5-minute videos, which is great. And it teaches every single subject. and tests every, like you can print a test for every single thing that you teach, which I find excellent. It is a Christian curriculum, so I know that's not a good fit for everybody. So I'm going to take the time to redo. I was talking to someone this morning, redo my roundup of resources and repost that for everyone because I know it's helpful and useful. But that's what we're using, and I just love it. I love that it's easy. I love that it's all in Spanish. It brings me back to like my days in school to like reread all of those things and concepts, and we've been having a lot of fun with it. So, what do you use, Erika, to teach?
I actually just did a deep dive into LAMP because it looked so good. When you shared it, I was like, oh my God, I need to see it. For example, we are with a charter school, and so we use our public school funds basically to buy all of our curriculum. And since it is, non-secular, we wouldn't be able to purchase it. It'd have to be out of pocket. So I just want to point that out to people that a lot of these Spanish resources, are going to have to be out of pocket, which again is another barrier, to learning Spanish, is that schools won't pay for a lot of these things because in Latin America, a lot of people are Catholic, they incorporate that into their schooling. So if you can pay out of pocket, that's great. If you can't, then there's other options. That's okay. For right now, my second grader is using llamitas. So she's doing like nivel tres. We've started since, they were little. And so is my little one. He's on level 1. He did the preschool binder last year and he loved it. And that's been really fun for them. And then we use entre palabras for ortografía, for spelling. So that's really helpful. For science, on TPT, Hola Bilinguals has this amazing science mega bundle in Spanish, completely in Spanish. And so everything's just like print it out and go. And it's like, it's super fun. So we've been going through that for science. For a lot of other Spanish kind of fill in the gaps, we use Jorge's dual language classroom. She has an amazing membership that's called Todo Incluido. So of course we have that membership because her resources are just unlimited that way. And you get so much for what you pay for monthly. So much. It's crazy. She's so smart. She's a dual language teacher. She's a native Spanish speaker, and her resources are just our favorite. Like we can probably make an entire Spanish curriculum just out of her resources, like a complete curriculum, So a lot of it is just plug in. It's not just, one resource for one thing. We use various things. Like for science also, we have Generation Genius. That's something that's available to us through our homeschool. It's completely online, and it's in English and Spanish. So we do that completely in Spanish, and that's a great option that's available to us through our homeschool. When my kids were first reading or learning to read, we used Coquito. So we actually have family from Peru that sent us a little book. It's called Coquito, and it basically teaches kids how to read. It's similar to, I don't know if you know La Patapita. Have you ever seen La Patapita? It's very similar to that, or like a nacho book. So
or like Juguemos a Leer, which is what I use for the kids.
Yes. So my son is doing that one right now. He's doing Juguemos a Leer. He's doing Juguemos a Leer, Llamitas, and then science is just like whatever we're interested in. We just find it in Spanish, because that's how my kids learn best, like you said, is going with their interests and just diving into that. We started off at the beginning of the school year with my kids writing all of the things that they want to learn this year. So here I am scrambling, like trying to find all the things I can in Spanish regarding to the things that they want to learn about this year, What else? IXL. I don't know if you've ever heard of IXL.
Yeah, somebody actually just mentioned it also in the comments. They're incorporating IXL.
Yes.
They just said.
So IXL is K through 12. It's an online, like full curriculum, basically covers every subject, including Spanish and SLA. And it's great because it's kind of individualized. And so as your child goes through it, it kind of you have the ability to test them on their Spanish through that, because I have no way of testing my kids in Spanish, aside, they don't get tested in school. So that's a good way for us to kind of see where they're at Right. And then it kind of, the program kind of focuses on what they kind of, score lower on. It kind of gives them more problems to work on that. So
Yeah, it
that's a great,
adapts.
yeah, that's a great option. Um, what else do we use? And then for Spanish, also, sorry.
No, that's okay. I was going to say, since you mentioned Jorge, there are other teachers, Spanish teachers in our community that sometimes offer freebies that are in Spanish. Fun for Spanish teachers.
Hola, bilingual.
Yes, we mentioned that earlier. And Frances D. Evans, she offers for even a little bit older kids. But these are all like, they also have their TPT store, and people can find the resources there. But keeping an eye on the free things that they offer is wonderful, because then not everybody has the means to buy stuff all the time. So it's very it really is fun to follow these teachers, because they give away stuff, and they come up with freebies quite often.
And I love that, in super true, because you can get even supplemental stuff that it might not be like but you might be touching on those subjects later, so it's good to grab them and kind of have them. And the other thing I wanted to say that I like about Sistema Educativo LAN is that it is mix and match, right? And so, for example, for you in your case, Erika, which is great, you were saying I teach these 3 things in Spanish and these 2 in English. You don't have to buy the whole grade. You can buy just the books that are going to fit the topics that you're teaching. And also you can mix and match. And so I grab the whole first grade for my son. And then I grab some tercero de preescolar, which is kinder, to supplement, because he doesn't know cursive and they teach cursive. And so I grab some cursive books for a little younger age to fit those in. So I really like that. It is in pesos.
Yeah.
When they go, when I first put stuff in my cart, it said like 3,000 something, and I was like, well, and then it was in Mexican pesos, so it was okay. They do ship to the US also. I've gotten that question so many times. They ship to the US. You go through the process. They send you a quote with inclusive of shipping in dollars, and then they send you a link to pay. I got my order in like 5 days. But I do like telling parents, in your case in particular, where you are teaching some stuff in English, I think it's important to know you don't have to buy the whole grade. You can buy the books and the subjects that fit your schedule and your needs, and teach those confidently, really, in Spanish,
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
We also, in California, I don't know, I mean, you can buy it anywhere, but the dual immersion schools here in California, they use Go Math. That's what it's called, Go Math, Vivan Matemáticas, Vivan las Matemáticas.
Okay.
That's what my daughter used in kinder, dual immersion. So I asked her school, is this what you guys use in your program? And they said yes. And it goes, from, I believe, K through 6th, but that's what we use to learn math in Spanish. And we don't teach it twice, like you said. Whenever I teach her some sort of math in English, all we do is just learn the vocab and practice a little bit more in Spanish, and vice versa. You don't have to finish a curriculum from start to finish. I'm starting to learn that now because my little OCD is like, we got to start this, we got to finish it. But it's me,
it's you. Yes,
and
yes.
you don't, because not even teachers finish full curriculums. They pull what is useful, what their child needs from it. And that's why, I feel like curriculum can just be a whole topic on itself, because you can just pull pieces from all kinds of different places to get a really well-rounded, education. But yeah, we like Vivan. Those are great workbooks, and a really cheap option on Amazon as well for math.
I have a list I will share. It's on my highlights. It's called Storefront, and I have a plethora of books from ortografía, caligrafía, math, libros completos that have several subjects in them that I think are cheap, like you're saying, and are great to supplement too. Even if you're a parent who has already started teaching in English, to start bridging those topics, I think they're lovely for that. And again, they're low cost, so you wouldn't be It's not an arm and a leg. Teaching fully in Spanish, don't even teach them how to read in English. That's a huge, we have this episode coming up on September 28th. It's about biliteracy, because another thing I'm very passionate about is teaching our children how to read in Spanish first. Okay, good. Because it's teaching our children how to read in Spanish first is so much easier. English has so many exceptions. I honestly, to this day, don't even know how I learned how to read. It's just, I can't believe it. But Spanish, the correspondence is much more direct between the letter and the sound. And so the children get confident in reading in Spanish and then easily are able to. My child, who again, I've never taught to read in English, will sit there and will go, what? You know, he starts saying the words and reading the words in English. Yeah. Which I'm blown away by. Will I teach how to read in English eventually? I think I'll have to, because there are so many exceptions to the letters and how they change one another letters behind. It's just, but I'm incredibly passionate about teaching in Spanish first. Erika, ¿tú cómo lo hiciste?
So I taught them to read in Spanish first. And then when I felt like they were confident readers, then we went into reading in English, but we kept up with our reading in Spanish at the level that they were at, you know. So we just kind of went with one and added the second, and just we're doing both now. And it's crazy. It's crazy to see how fast it happened. My little one that's in TK, we've been in school for 2 weeks, you know, and he's already reading. He's been reading Bob books, are like these easy decodable. Yeah. I love, okay, so my daughter read every single Bob book, and that's honestly, I say that's what taught her to read in English. And so I'm doing the same thing with my son, and he can read those decodable English books like nothing, with no even formal instruction as to how to read in English. It's just from what he knows in reading in Spanish. So it's a seamless transition. I always tell people, like, don't be afraid to do both if that's what you have to do or if that's what you want to do. It is totally possible. My kids read one book in Spanish and one book in English every single day. And so it's very equal.
Oh, that's what, somebody asked if they're more fluent reading in one or the other.
I would say they're more fluent in reading in Spanish right now because they have, my daughter's 7. She's had 6 years of Spanish versus only 1 year of English so far. So definitely her reading level is higher. She's in, you know, more advanced chapter books in Spanish, but still kind of shorter decodable books in English.
Somebody said resources for decodables. If you go to my my highlights there's one that says storefront. If you click on that, I have one that's called Homeschooling. If you click on that, I have a bunch of little decodable books in there, similar to Bob books, but in Espanol. There are several box sets that you can buy that have the same purpose and will work just as well in Spanish. So, and there's one that's actually bilingual that comes in Spanish and English. So if anybody's having to do both, they also work.
Yes, the scholastic ones.
Yes, the little red box. Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
Marty,
guys.
I know you have to bounce.
Go from one meeting to another meeting, but I love talking to you guys. I think this is such a great topic that we could probably, bring it back and talk some more, especially from some of the comments. And I'm sure we'll get some DMs and people asking this, that, or the other. I honestly, because of being in Facebook for so long, I see the communities there. I think we need more of this homeschooling communities on Instagram. I just feel like, people need this support over here because some people like Instagram more than Facebook. So I love that, that you're doing this and that you're talking about it. We need to keep talking about it. So parents at some point will get convinced that it's okay to speak to our kids in Spanish all the way until, they go to school. They will learn it. Kids in Europe, they speak 3 and 4, 5 languages without, even batting their eyes. And there's no reason why we can't do that here. And yes, we want Spanish and English, but hey, once they have those two, they can learn French, they can learn German, they can learn Italian. it'll be so much easier. And what an amazing gift we will give our kids. So you take it away because you started this. So.
Oh, bueno, mira, Erika, ¿te quieres quedar 10 minutos and answer the
Yeah.
questions of the people in the comment? That'd be okay?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was gonna
So Mari
suggest
will
that.
stay. Yeah, I feel like people might have a few questions, so we'll stay. And then I'll be posting this tonight, Mari, on YouTube, so we can all share it with our followers.
Absolutely. Nice to see you both. Thank you, everyone that joined.
Bye, Mari.
We'll see you
Un
soon.
beso.
Besitos.
Okay. Let's see.
A ver, mis
Oh,
hijos hablan
that's too close
español,
to my
entienden
face.
todo, les hablan español y me contestan inglés.
Okay, ¿dónde vamos a
Yes.
empezar?
Pues somebody asked earlier, how do you balance work and homeschooling? They were interested in that, so I wanted to circle back because
Okay.
I think it'll be useful.
So I am a labor and delivery nurse. I'm an RN. I deliver babies for a living, and I truly love my job. I am so passionate about my job. I couldn't imagine not doing that. So I've had to make a lot of sacrifices to make homeschooling possible and still keep up with my career. I did scale down to being part-time. I was full-time, and when I decided to go homeschool, I went part-time. So for a nurse, that looks like 2 days a week, which is totally possible when it comes to homeschool, because I work they're long 12-hour shifts, but it's 2 days a week. And then I homeschool 4 days, and then I take a day for mental sanity or family, so we take a day off. So it's totally doable with my schedule. I know that a lot of working moms, have 9-to-5 jobs, and I can't, I can't speak for them, because I can only imagine how difficult, having a 9-to-5 job and having to homeschool would be. I'd have to speak to somebody who does that. But I work 2 days a week, and then I homeschool 4, and then I'm off for 1. So that's what I do. A ver, ¿qué
That's
más?
amazing. I mean, I do it full time, and I can only imagine adding a job to it. Like, I can't believe it. That's kudos.
Thanks. A ver, yeah, I actually considered being a nurse because of the schedule, the flexibility in my schedule, and knowing I always had homeschooling in my heart, and I knew that I wanted to do that with my kids, and I knew that nursing would, give me that opportunity. So I definitely did think about that a long time ago.
Well, but that's what I mean when I said in the beginning, right? Like, a lot of people say, "Oh, you're privileged and you can homeschool," and I'm like, we made sacrifices. Like, it's a full-time thing. It's a full-time job to know that the education
Absolutely.
for children falls on us, right? So, and our children going out there and being in groups and extracurriculars and all of those things, I feel like are baked in when kids go to school a lot of the time, but not necessarily when we homeschool. And so it does take those extra steps, and I'll gladly do it. I know why I'm doing it, but it does take a little bit of extra work. So again, kudos to you for working and doing that. That's amazing.
I have my moments. Don't get me wrong.
Bueno,
Where I go,
yo también no
I
trabajo, so
could just drop my kids off at school right now and take a nap. Or clean my house, but it's like teach my kids Spanish and spend quality time with them, or have a clean house. Like, mejor que
I
se
think
quede
there's no moment like seeing your kids like come back to you with stuff that they didn't know before and you taught them, right? With those same moments that they had when they were little, I feel like we get to continue doing that as they grow, right?
Yeah,
and
amazing.
That doesn't have to stop when they learn how to walk and talk, and you get to have all these firsts as they grow that I feel like you'd almost miss out on if they were in school. So I think that's pretty cool personally.
Yes.
Orlan, can you help explain the difference between preescolar 1 to 3 and primaria 1 to 3? So preescolar 1 is maternal, what they call in Spanish. So it's very little, like 2.5. Preescolar 2 is pre-K, and preescolar 3 is kinder. And then primaria is first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way through 6, and then you move into the middle school grades. So that's what they have available. And like my child is supposed to be going into kindergarten, and they have these videos where they open every book and they show you kind of like what's included. So I took a chance and I bought the entire first grade, and I'm glad I did because that was much more fitting for him. It was a lot more kind of to his level. So aside from the cursiva, which is something we're learning, I have a child who doesn't like handwriting, like le choca escribir, no le gusta, he doesn't say, like, yeah, he
My
just
daughter.
can't.
That
Es
is
que
my
no,
daughter. It's
es
like,
que no se
tengo que escribir
frustra.
todo
Sí,
eso.
se
It's like
frustra.
one sentence.
Just, it's like his Everest because he's so good at everything else. So he gets, como que le enoja que eso es lo que no le sale, you know?
Yep. Yep.
So, and it's fine. I mean, he'll, but again, I think the advantage of homeschooling, right? I can have him take his time with that if that's something that we can
Yes.
revisit, ¿me entiendes? And I do love that. Like, I'm not running to get him to learn it. And I think that's pretty cool. Like,
I
yes, I
totally
have, yes. Handwriting, somebody said handwriting without tears. I have the Spanish handwriting without
Spanish.
tears in my, in the storefront. So go check it out. I have it in there. They have the Kinder book in Spanish, and he doesn't like writing. It's just, we have the exercises, los trazos. He's just not my writer. So
Project-based primary also has a handwriting curriculum that has the Spanish alphabet. And so it's basically just tracing and learning like early handwriting, but it has, the Spanish alphabet. But one way I go around the whole writing thing with my daughter is she's the same way. She hates writing for some reason. Like you said, it's her Everest. Pero le encanta escribir like historias solita.
that's cute. Como composition, sí.
Like for fun. Like
Creative
just
writing, that's
creative writing is like she has a stack, like a huge stack in her room of
Esa es su
books that she
práctica.
writes. And no le duele para escribir esas, you know?
It's a drill. It's like she can't do the drill.
Right. And so I kind of foster that instead of like sitting her down and
No, yeah.
painstakingly like making her write.
No need.
No, so I keep blank books all the time. I staple just regular printer paper and make her little libritos and have them in her room with her pencils, colored pencils, whatever. And she comes to me with, oh, mira de lo que escribí. And she wrote, 10 pages of whatever story was in her mind. And that counts.
Amazing.
That is writing,
Yeah.
So it's a huge advantage to be able to do that and help them in the way that works for them.
It's como que, mira, como te digo, if we can revisit it and he has things that he's leading me towards that he's interested in, I think it's okay to come back to that, ¿me entiendes? And he has moments where he'll do the same. Se sienta a escribir la santa or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
And let's go. You take the opportunity and you run with it. But how amazing to be able to do that, ¿no? En vez de como que drill it into him that he has to do it right now and learn it right now.
And then just move on.
I just love it.
Yeah,
Sí, I just love homeschooling.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Yeah.
Pero alguien dice, can you share more about iExcel? My subscription doesn't start until September and I want to learn more. How is math, social studies, and science when you set the language to Spanish?
Let me see. I don't believe iExcel. I don't think you can set like the math and all of those other subjects to Spanish. It only includes Spanish, like actually
like language arts.
Yes, so it has Spanish language arts and Spanish. It does not have like math in Spanish or social studies in Spanish. It just has the actual subject of Spanish. So it's definitely not a complete Spanish curriculum. You can only use it for Spanish language arts, basically.
That's what I love about LAM, that it's like, it just felt so
complete.
Easy, sí, and super complete. Por eso todo el mundo cree que I'm affiliated with them. I'm really not. I just literally bought it and I really like it.
I'm telling you, I did a deep dive. I was like on there for like 30 minutes, like looking through all of it, and it looked so great. Yeah, I definitely need to get on that because it looks really good. But it's like we're navigating English and it just feels like so much, especially at the beginning of the school year when I'm trying to, look at everything that we have to learn for the year, and it's a
And
lot.
get into the routine. I get it. I get it. Somebody says, can you share more about your daily routine and flow? Mine, what I like to do personally is to get into what I call a weekly flow instead of a daily flow. So we anchor our days with the things we have going on those days, and kind of work school around them. My children learn better in the morning
Yes.
because they're not, they're not tired, they're not running around, they're sitting down. So after breakfast, we take that opportunity to do what we need to do and then kind of move on with the rest of our day. We do at the most probably 30 minutes of school, and then we go into our co-op where we learn some more. We do story time where we learn some more. People think that because it's like you're teaching, it ends when you close that workbook or that curriculum, but it's not. Like our children are learning all day, So
Right.
yes, I will put this on YouTube later tonight so you guys can see it. Sorry, somebody asked.
Right.
What does your day look like?
Same. My kids are way more focused, attentive, happy in the morning. And so we do the same thing. They wake up, we make breakfast. Right after breakfast, we go straight into, I do my Spanish only topics in the morning because my little one still naps. So I like to do the Spanish ones with him.
Para que no escuche después.
Para que no,
Para que no
yes,
escuche inglés después.
exactly.
That's smart.
Exactly. So I do English when he's sleeping with my oldest so that he doesn't listen to all of that English craziness yet.
That's great.
Because
That's super smart. I love it.
he's still like mainly all Spanish. He's barely, dabbing into
That's
English.
how my 3-year-old. Yeah,
So
todavía
we
no.
do, yeah, right. So we do Spanish and science in the morning all together, puro español. And we just kind of rotate with the Spanish with both of them, spend a little bit of time with him, 15 minutes the most, and then have him do something independently while my older one, then I'll sit down with her for 15, 30 minutes, do Spanish, and then we all do science together because science is science.
They both love it. Yeah.
It's not even grade based. So whatever my daughter's learning in for first grade, that's what my little one is learning for science and Spanish. And then lunch, and we add a lot of books in there. When they're eating breakfast, I do a read aloud. When they're eating lunch, they put on an audiobook. So they're always listening to, either their Yodo or whatever during meal times. And then like I said, when my little one goes to take his nap, he, still naps for a couple of hours. It's like a perfect window to go back into it with my daughter. I give her a quiet time too, like a break.
Yeah.
So when we do morning school, we take a break where he's sleeping and she does her independent time in her room. Like that's my only rule is quédate en tu cuarto. You can do whatever you want. You can play, read, whatever, but just stay in your room quietly and rest your body. And that's when she writes her little books. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
And she's
getting writing practice.
Yeah, it's like her creative time. Like she has a lot of, she has a craft box. She makes things. Like it's just her own little, like mental break from school. Y cuando acaba con eso, then we do, the other subjects in English, just me and her. So that's kind of what our day looks like. And I feel like our day is long. Like sometimes we're not done with school till 4, but that's because we have such a big gap, in between morning school and evening school, really. Like it's broken down into little chunks. Kids can't sit down for 4 hours straight. So we sit down for 30 minutes, they play for an hour. We sit down for 30 minutes, they play for an hour. So it can take all day, depending on your kid's attention span, basically.
Somebody just asked, how about those very complex topics that children want to kind of dive into? My advice would be to get books. Get the vocabulary yourself if the books are in English, because I translate all of the books if we don't have availability of the books in Spanish. So what I do is I like to, for example, my kids also are into space shuttles and aviation. So I'll go and I'll look up like ahead of time, like quick YouTube videos that have that vocabulary so I can get it the first time, and then I can take off for my children when we read a book or next time we pick it up. I already know what those words are that are going to come up, and I can point those things out. So I just keep repeating it for them if those are things that I didn't know ahead of time. Because I know aviation and space shuttles have very specific vocabulary, so that's why I'm bringing that up. But I think us looking it up and finding those things to fill in the gaps for the kids once we start picking up those books in English are very, very useful.
I feel like
Um,
YouTube can be great too. Like si no puedes
but I
encontrar
always
el
look it up in
libro,
Spanish, you
there's
know. Sí,
always a video
exacto.
in Spanish. Always a
Yeah.
video in Spanish on
La
whatever it is.
fábrica de no sé qué, or the, yes,
Mm-hmm.
110%.
Yeah.
What do you suggest when teaching Spanish letter and sounds in order to move into syllables? When will I know to move into syllables? So you can start moving into syllables as long as your child knows all of the sounds of every
Sounds.
vowel, and then the what I'm gonna call the simple consonants. So like the M, the S, the. But even if they just know one, right? If they know how to say and they know they can start putting together ma. That's the beauty about Spanish, that they can start doing it. You can start building those building blocks quite early. And as they learn more consonants, you can keep building onto that. And they will get confident because they'll recognize ma, and then they'll recognize sa because they already know ma, me, mi, mo,
Mm-hmm.
mu. So it's as long as they know the vowels and they know a few consonants, you can start blending them together and move from there.
The estrellita letter sounds in Spanish video on YouTube was so helpful for my kids when they were first learning their letter sounds.
And I put a video on my channel, in my broadcast channel, if anybody needs that, that is showing how I started letter sounds with my 2.5-year-old. So you guys can see what books I used. You guys can see and very simple things, what songs I use. Again, start simple. They're little. They're not going to sit for your workbook much, but just start with songs, start with music, start pointing that sounds out. I love to do with my kids in the car. I'll be like, they'll say a word like pájaro, and I'll be like pájaro. So you know what I mean? So they'll get beginning sounds, and I mean, it worked. My oldest, I mean, to this day, he still does it. It's really funny to figure out the beginning sound. So what kind of community is around to help with keeping up with Spanish? For me, my husband speaks English, so not a spouse. I mean, he supports me, but he speaks English. Family, I don't have any here. I by myself, and I am the only one. I made a Spanish immersion playgroup for my kids. I started it because we didn't have any other exposure, and it's hard to find kids my kids' age that still speak Spanish. I know that sounds weird to say, but a lot of the times he's turning 6, and kids have already gone into school and they don't want to speak it. They're going through that like resistance period. So we found group with, we've made community with like younger kids, I think up to like 4.5, which is okay, as long as they hear other kids speak it. I think it's valuable and equally valuable, but I've had to go out of it's one more thing, right? I've had to create that because that wasn't available here where we are. And we got a lot of parents that wanted to be part of the group. But for example, their kids could understand it, but weren't speaking it back. And so for me, I was very adamant that these be kids that speak the language so that we can immerse our children, all of our children, not just mine. Because if you get one kid that already isn't wanting to speak it, then you start getting into a situation where immersion just breaks, and they all want that kid to feel included, so they all default to English. So it's worked out well so far, and we're having more families join, which I'm super excited about, and it's growing slowly. I mean, it started like a month ago, I want to say, so it's growing slowly, but it's what we have to do.
Yeah.
It's what we have to do. I'm not in California.
No me have aventado into making my own co-op, obviously, because between my work schedule and then homeschool and my daughter's taking enrichment classes now, in person for the first time. And then both my kids do sports. I coach soccer.
I heard somebody wrote that earlier, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I played soccer my whole life, and my little one loves it. And I started coaching his team, and 4 seasons later, I'm Coach Erika now.
Oh my God!
So, and it's been so fun. I've kept a lot of the same kids, And I've met a few bilingual moms through there. And so we have like play dates with our kids and they speak Spanish to each other. And so we've made friends through, individual friendships like that as well.
I love that. Well, I'm going to answer this next question because I have to roll. But it says we're starting a similar group in my area. How has it been? So the way I created it personally was very informally. I wanted it to be a play group, like an immersion play group. However, I did want there to be an element of education or a fun educational element. So what I do is I bring a book with me. Depending if we're going to a creek, I'll bring a book that's related to that topic, or typically the books are in English and I'll translate them for the kids. I'll read them in Spanish for them so that they do get exposed to that academic language in Spanish, right? So that we can create some language equity for them, because I do know that a lot of the kids might not have that at home. And so I like to pick books that are a little higher than their level, so that they hear those words that they typically wouldn't hear. And so we meet, we do a quick book, and then we just let the kids play. And that's worked out well. I hopefully can move this into a more formal co-op situation eventually. But for now, I want to see if the families want to do this, if they're committed to homeschooling their kids too, in order to we will start here and see where we go from there.
How fun. I love that for you. I feel like I need to get on top of doing that too.
No, you don't need another thing on your list, creo. No, you're good. You're good.
It would just be so fun. And to have a group, where I think of like even field trips, por ejemplo, like when we go to the aquarium, like how fun would it be to have a group to go to the aquarium with and learn all of the names of the animals in Espanol, with all of the kids. Like that's what I want, because that's what I do by myself with my kids. And I love to help other families and have their kids join in too. So maybe someday.
Bilinguitos has play groups that she organizes and that like she puts together in different areas, and they have leads and stuff. So if you guys want to reach out to her, that's also a valuable resource in that regard, because I know a lot of groups that have already been created and we might not know about. I know in my state we didn't have one, but I think it will be really valuable to reach out and see what she's got, because there might be one in your area that you could join already. You don't have to start from scratch, So.
Right, that's true.
Pero bueno, te agradezco, mil gracias por venir. It was so nice talking to you and hearing your perspective on this. I know so many parents are kind of wanting to hear from someone who has to, teach certain things in English. So I thought that was super important to hear from you and how you've done it. And I love that you were able to join us. Así que mil gracias.
Thank you. Gracias por invitarme. It was fun. I was super nervous, but then I instantly felt calm, talking to you guys. So it was fun. I hope people got something out of it. And
This will be on YouTube tonight. That way we can all share it. And you guys can watch it tonight too, because I know a lot of people aren't able to stay the whole time and stuff, or we didn't catch the beginning. So,
yes.
Mil gracias a ustedes, mil gracias a todos por venir y te mando un besote.
Have a good day. Bye. Todos. Gracias.